Excuse me. Thank you.
My garden isn't set up for a lot of seed saving, but I had a look around today and discovered that there are quite a few things that are in fact going to seed, mostly just because I neglected to rip them out when they started to fade. But nevertheless, we get to do a lot of seed harvesting today. We're going to go around and collect whatever we can. We'll also have a look at a bunch of things that are not quite mature so that we'll know what to look for when the seeds are ready to harvest. That way we can come back in a few weeks' time, get all the rest of it, look at the cleaning, storing of the seed, make sure that it's all viable for when we come back to plant all of this seed again in the spring. And the conditions have been really great lately too. Other than a couple of rainy days, it's been basically warm, dry, no significant amount of wind, and more importantly, no frost yet. This is a pretty messy space at the moment. I have my basket with many small containers, some clippers, some gloves, a little list of what I wanted to look for specifically today. And the first one to check out is this Nigella. Now this seed I already harvested actually a few weeks ago. So this is just the leftovers. Nigella is a beautiful flower, and these are the seed pods. You can use them when they're green in floral arrangements or dry them when they're still green and then they don't look quite this rough. But these are ones that have been left for seed. And you can see that a lot of seeds already fallen because these are actually little Nigella seedlings that popped up since the last rain that we had. So you can tell that this is ready because there's little holes on the top. This is similar to poppy pods actually. And if I tip it upside down, then the seeds fall right out. So this is actually a little bit late for the Nigella. We've likely already lost a bunch of seed, and I'm actually just going to scatter those because I've already harvested more than enough. If we open it up, there's even more inside. So poppy pods work exactly the same way as these. Poppies tend to bloom in the spring, so those have already been pulled up, but same rules apply for Nigella as do with poppies. Now also in this bed are some Chinese forget-me-nots, and I'm only just noticing this right now because I have a large plant, this one right here in the next bed, which I've been watching for. These flowers are not yet mature. You can tell they're still green. The plant is still flowering, but likely in 2 to 3 weeks' time, these seeds will all look like this one here. These are brown. They've shriveled a little bit. They're smaller. They're definitely dried up. So this is the first one that we're going to gather to bring indoors because this, I love to plant this in early spring for cut flower use. These flowers are gorgeous, much bigger than your regular forget-me-nots that definitely grow as weeds around here this time of year. Now what I neglected to bring is a little marker to write on the side of these jars, but I pretty much already know every seed I'm going to harvest today. It all looks very unique, and I've been growing these for so long that I'm going to recognize these seeds. I'm going to know what these are, but for the record, always label your seeds. That's my official recommendation. These seeds are sticky, a lot like your typical forget-me-nots, but I'm just grasping the stem, where's a good one, and pulling the seeds off. So with one plant, you can easily get anywhere from 2 to 10 seed packs worth of seeds. So this is a fantastic way of saving money in your garden, even if you save seeds from a couple of things. Now a really good one for saving your own seed is calendula. These are fresh flowers obviously, but when the flowers start to fade, you can see that a bunch of green bumpy things grow under the petal. These are in fact the immature seeds. As the petals fall, you're going to see them a little more clearly and then eventually turn brown. So these petals, pop this one off. There. Calendula seeds are really interesting. They're larger seed and they're curved, and these are on the small side. I've seen some really, really big ones. But to compare with this large seed head that we just looked at, if I pull the petals off, we can see all those little green, they almost look like caterpillars. We can pull those apart, and these are the seeds. This is not mature. If you dry these seeds, they likely will not germinate. So you want to make sure you leave them until the flower heads have turned brown, like this one. This is a good one, and this is a good one. And when they're ready, they'll pull off fairly easily, and then there's a little bit of this chaff, bits of petal, bits of the stem, But all of those little brown caterpillar looking things, those are your calendula seeds. And here's an example of a bigger one. This is the biggest one on this flower head, but I've seen even bigger than that. So even though it's been a dry day, when I bring all of these inside, I'm going to let them sit in a really dry spot for about 2 weeks to make sure as much moisture has come out of these as possible before I seal them in something like a glass jar or a container, just to be on the safe side. The last thing you want is to put effort into saving all these seeds and then have them go moldy on you over the winter. Now this large plant here is fennel, not the bulbing fennel. This I grow just for the foliage and mostly for pollinators and butterflies actually. But here are the seed heads, and these are definitely not mature. They're still green. There's some over here that are a little closer. They're starting to turn brown, but they are still, you can tell that they are not dry. You can tell mostly by the touch. I'm gonna let these go for at least another 2 weeks. Oh, I found some brown ones. There we go. These we could easily harvest, and I think I am going to. So I'm just going to leave these on the seed head just like that, and I'll break them apart when I get indoors because I know I don't have enough jars for everything that I want to harvest today. And dill works exactly the same way. There are very subtle differences. The seeds are a little bit thicker on the fennel. I think I might have some dill actually. There's a little tiny bit coming off of the side of this pot. These seeds are much, much smaller. And then they're a little bit more on the long and thin side rather than the short and fat side. These are your dill flowers. So these ones have not set seed yet. That is a weed. But here are your flowers. And then these are well on the way to becoming viable seeds. Once you wait until they're more on the brown side and dry like the fennel that we just looked at. I grow a lot of flowers, but I also grow a fair amount of vegetables too for our small yard, but I don't save a ton of vegetable seeds. Herbs, on the other hand, I do like to get a few, and we've already covered that with the dill and the fennel, but I actually have some basil that looks like it's about ready too. So these are the flower heads, and the flowers aren't really all that interesting. The bees love them. They still smell lovely like basil, but they work their way up. The flower spike continues to grow, and you end up with a ton of seed, but you'll notice a lot of this is still green. So if we go down to the very bottom, let's pull this one apart. I don't expect this seed to be ripe. I expect it to be white still. Yeah, there you go. There are 2, sometimes 3 or 4 seeds in there. There might be 4 actually, we just haven't. Yeah, there we go. These are not mature. Even if they dry, they will not grow because they haven't had the time to mature on the plant. We're going to wait until these are brown or black, and the trick is harvesting them before they fall because those little seed cases face down. Now there are quite a few little brown seed pods on some of these, so let's have a look at those next. I'm going to do the same trick I did with the forget-me-nots. Sometimes lose a few, but let's see what we get. Oh, I see some black seed in there. So there's a little bit of chaff, and that one black seed, that is what you're looking for basil. So brown generally means ready, and this is a large lettuce leaf basil, so I definitely want to save some more of that. There, so I got some of them in there are green, but that's likely more than enough seed to last me the next year or 2, and I find basil seed is usually viable for at least a couple of years as long as you dry and store it properly. Pumpkins and squash are one of those things that I do not save seed from because they cross-pollinate really, really easily. And the resulting cross that you would grow from the seeds that you save next year are not always edible. So I have, this is a Musc de Provence, which is an edible pumpkin, and I have another one right behind me that's much, much bigger. But this one's actually starting to ripen. I have some decorative pumpkins only about 12 feet that way, a few different varieties actually. And because they are so close, they've likely cross-pollinated so that the seeds that are in here, I don't know what I'm going to get for those. So squash, unless you can guarantee there are no other squash or pumpkin varieties within, I think, 200 feet. I'm not positive about that number, but it's a big distance. Unless you can be sure of that, don't bother saving your squash seeds unless you just want something decorative next year. But if you're counting on eating them, then that's not a good bet. Now I have had my eye on all these zinnias because I really, really want to get some seed from these this year, but most of them aren't ready yet. There are a lot of flowers that are past their prime. This one is definitely getting close, but it's still, the petals are very much colored up. There's still a lot of green on the stem. This one though is a lot closer. I think I could probably harvest this one actually. This is what you're looking for. Everything's all brown and dried up, but I don't really want the red ones. So this one I'm actually going to leave. What I'm looking for are these salmon, the pink. I really love these soft oranges, and there's some purples in here that are really, really nice. So I'm going to wait for those ones. These are called Isabellina Creamy Yellow, and they are getting very close. Those ones in particular, I'm going to come back and check these daily. They might be ready to go in about a week. There's a little bit more of the queen lime. Unfortunately, I've been harvesting these flowers, so none of them have really been developing, but I will be buying more seed from these because I do use them a lot. Lavender is a good one to save seed, but here's an example of ones that are not ready. This is a developing bud. These flowers have colored up and are ready to open. These ones are definitely starting to open, and there's still not viable seed on any of these. Oh, wait, found some. These would be old flowers. If we look at these carefully, they are dried up, they're all gray, and they're open on the top, so you can definitely get seed out of these. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Between the wind and the rain, there might be no more seeds left. No. Let's try one more. Oh, there's some. So there's some good lavender seed in there. The dark color is a good indication. I think I lost these to the wind, but there's one right there. I don't normally save lavender seed because I prefer to take cuttings, and I also harvest most of the flowers to dry. But every once in a while I miss a few, or the flowers are too short and they just get left, which is good for the pollinators. And then I might get a little seed out of it too. Most of these things are ready to come out. There's snapdragons here, and I would like to get some snapdragon seed, but I don't think there's enough time left in the season. Having said that, there are some brown seed pods down here. I might pick those off just in case. Snapdragon seed is something that I never quite buy enough of. And snapdragon seed is small. It's like dust. These are not snapping off, but they are brown, quite brown and dry. So let's see. Oh, there we go. Lots of snapdragon seed. That is not something I was counting on today. I'm not going to bust open all these seed pods now because the wind is starting to pick up a little bit. But we're going to get all of these inside to dry. And this looks like it's a pink variety. This is another flower spike on the same plant, so I would be very happy to get a lot more seed from this variety. And at worst, it may have cross-pollinated with the buttery yellow variety that's planted in the same row. Now I'm taking everything that has started to turn brown. I don't know if it's all viable, but maybe I'll do a germination test too before we do part 2 of this video, and then I can share the results. That could likely very well be thousands of seeds. I am pleased with that. This is the cutting garden, so this row was stock, and then it was snapdragons, and then I stuffed in some zinnias to fill in space. The status is basically done. I think I might do one more harvest and then pull the rest of this out. I've been editing and moving most of the Rudbeckia, just taking out the colors I don't use as much. This row was cardinal basil, which I was very excited about, and a little bit of status and some lemon basil, but the cardinal basil did not have enough time to produce those big red seed heads that I was really looking for, or flower heads probably. And the aroma isn't quite as nice as your typical edible basil, so I think that's just going to be called a cover crop. That row is a mess. The last couple things I want to look at, right here I have a big mess of cosmos. There are some straw flowers hidden behind it. And then across the aisle, there is some celosia. I have some red, I think this was called Red Flame. I'm not sure I'm going to save that one, but I definitely want to save this. I think this was a Pampas Plume. There's a creamy, whitish, yellowish one in there, but most of it ended up being this orange, which I really like for fall. Now I've never pulled seed off of this myself, but it has self-seeded very easily in my garden before. Okay, I can see these seed pods now. They have not darkened enough to make me think that they're going to be viable. The ones in here are still white. They're starting to darken a little bit. So these aren't ready, but they're on their way. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. And same thing, I didn't even see this one. Same thing with this one. So we will definitely get seeds off this celosia, but not yet. So the cosmos, now these seeds develop really quick. This variety is apricota, it's lovely. Now these ones definitely look ready. They are mostly dried up. The seed head is green, so I may wait and come back and get these later. Those are some nice looking cosmos seeds. I'm going to take these anyway. I'm not 100% sure that they are ready, but they are releasing from the plant very easily. They're basically not even attached. So we'll take all of those. Oh, there's some. These stalks are all completely brown, and it looks like most of the seeds may have fallen, but here are a few. Yep, that looks better. So it looks like we're going to be set for cosmos seeds for next year. And I really hope that I can get some from this cupcake blush. Oh, yep, I think so. There we go. There are so many flowers still, so if I don't get some now, I'm sure I will before too long. I don't really see any more, so I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer on these guys. That is all my containers filled, so I guess that's all the seed I'm going to bring indoors today. But I almost forgot, I want to show you my sunflowers because some of them are getting really close. Now this one has not broken off. It still should ripen and produce seed. Look how fluffy though. That one is so nice. Let's just gently put it back down. Sleepy bee. Back to the sunflowers. So nice. I should get so much seed from these, and I didn't actually plant all the seed that I bought this year. So I should have tons now. Now this is my vegetable garden where it's supposed to be. I've started to rip out most of the squash vines, the zucchini. This was my broccoli, which got eaten by deer, unfortunately. Excuse me. Thank you. Well, looks like they missed that one, but it's not quite ready yet. And they like to eat the tops off my beets and then pull them out of the ground and leave it there. I'm gonna have to come back and get these. I wish they'd just eat all those tomatillos that fell off so that I don't have to pick those up. Oh, I have zucchinis. I am going to take one zucchini, but that's it. If I stay in there too long, I'm going to get distracted. I want to show you the greenhouse next because I did cut off a few of those sunflower heads that were a little bit more mature. Hello, little dude. Heading into the greenhouse, there are some pumpkins, some sugar baby watermelons, some butternut squash. I just want to make sure that they are as ripe as possible before I bring them inside to store. But there are the sunflower seed heads. The seed is dark, black. I just want them to dry out as much as possible. Mostly, I think they are ripe. You can see there's no green on that one at all. And less on that one, but these ones still do have a little more green around the outside. They're in the greenhouse because I want to make sure that I get the seed before the birds do. This poor greenhouse is covered in cobwebs. There's some rosemary cuttings and a lot of my seedlings that I need to plant to overwinter, all my cool flowers. Some random cuttings, some amaryllis, some snapdragons and some Rebecca up on the top shelf. So I guess that means I better get to work ripping out all of these old crops so that I can plant those things. But that's going to be for tomorrow. So I'm going to get those seeds inside in my zucchini. Thank you so much for watching.